So my question for you is, are you prepared to play above the line? And this has taken about 5-6 years to develop to this graphic and point, but people seem to get it today. If you look below the line here, at the top, it's tax and accounting. Think of those as commoditized services. Yes, you're all saying, well, we're different, we have different processes, but I can go get tax and accounting services from about any accounting firm out there. And as a consumer, I may not be able to tell the difference between firms or among firms or offerings out there. So above the line then would be the performance-based services. This is where the Big Four is spending all their time today, especially Deloitte. And those services are going to be more on business intelligence, CFO type services, and we'll get into the detail here in a moment. And then above that, strategic. Many of you senior partners are definitely capable of doing a strategic plan. Some of you are capable of doing a succession plan. I've gone through this, and when I went through it, I hired one of the best groups out of Denver, Colorado, and they helped us write a guide, and I took what I did and I put it in the form of a one-page plan. And if you have that little guide, that's all you need, because it's very difficult to do succession if you don't have a plan. And it's also the biggest person you have to sell is yourself, then your spouse, then your firm. And once people know what your plan is, they help you execute the plan. So getting it down in writing, and most all of you are capable of helping clients do that. So how do you do that? Do you have an advisory services division? Most of you will say yes. But are they kind of operating as an island and just picking up pieces? That's probably true. At least they're not getting the revenue they should. So how you do all these things is very important. So let's assume that we all want to play above the line. How are we going to get there in today's environment is what the rest of the presentation is about here. So let me give you some good examples here. And I'm going to start off with services. And I'm going to say we've got 3 levels. First is the compliance service. Second is the performance service, and third, the strategic. And I've got $1, $2, and $3 because the higher services are of more value to your clients. You may not think so because they're not as technical as some of the compliance service. And your cost of delivering those technical services is very, very high compared to some of these other services. So let's look at examples here. We all know tax and assurance down there. Accounting services. You could throw those in, but if you take those same services and put them into a package, you can move them above the line and call it family office. Many firms are doing that, or high net worth accounting. It's a matter of packaging and pricing. I see services below the line at 1/3 of the cost of what they're above the line. Also, you have business advisory services, you have wealth advisory. Yes, you have to be licensed in some of these areas, but you're dealing with the same clients. And then finally at the top, mergers and acquisitions could also be there. But the important part comes next. We talk, and the AICPA talks a lot about the most trusted business advisor, saying that's the CPA. I contend many CPAs are the most trusted technical advisor. I think many of you aren't giving the advice above the line that you could. And that's what the clients are asking for today. And here's another important part, is that if you look at the compliance service, we've been trained to look at the past and the history and always be correct and perfect. As you move into performance and strategic services, you're not always going to be the smartest person in the room, like you are as the tax partner. You're going to be challenged by other smart people, particularly some smart clients who have a vision, and their vision and their decision-making process may not always be based upon tax related issues. It may be based on economics. It may be based upon just their vision and what they want to do. Okay, once you understand this, then you can kind of take this and bundle those services and put whatever you want. So I'm going to give you some quick examples in just a minute, but first I want to give you the roadmap. If you don't have a roadmap on how you're doing this, you can't explain to your clients, you probably can't explain it internally. So the first thing in the roadmap is what's your value proposition, but base that on the trusted technical versus trusted business advisor. Also say that cloud-based services are easier to outsource or source to your clients and provide than old server-based. You could never do this in the old technology environment. And I don't have time to go through all of these, but I do want to show you what the important parts are. So next is what's the menu of services? We've been talking about that. And then the third is who are your target clients? Your target clients are probably going to change. They're probably going to be larger clients, but not necessarily true. But you have to know who those are. You may have to filter out some clients so you have time to do these services. Wouldn't you all like to have business clients that you do both work for the business in these three areas as well as their personal work, rather than just a one-touch tax return that comes once a year? I assume most of the firms here have gotten over the 1040 part of this, but assumptions generally prove me wrong, and oftentimes that's why people are leaving their firms, because they have all that 1040 work during a compressed time. The next one then is the team. Who's going to be on your team? And you've got to have a team leader. And we used to talk about this as being client accounting services or bookkeeping services. So we put a weak person generally in that position. This person's got to be strong. They got to be an entrepreneur. And they probably need to be one of your younger partners who have the support of the older partners, because they understand the technology, they understand the processes. And when I hear firms talk about this department, they're still talking about some of the steps that were done using client-server accounting rather than real-time online accounting where they capture the transaction. There is no data entry. The reconciliations are done in real time. It just changes the whole process. It makes it more accurate. It makes it more timely. Then how do you package and price this? I think it's got to be on a fixed price agreement, and that can be modified, but it has to be done with a scope of engagement, and also sit down and talk to that client up front. And then finally, what are your processes for doing this? You can't have a lot of loops in the process. Your clients value more today getting real-time information on their iPhone than they do a compilation or a review. They also value finding out how many people went through their restaurant today on things like an iWatch or Apple Watch. Now that may not trip your trigger, but you have clients that that's what they're willing to pay for. That's what they want. You like to see numbers tabulated, make sure they're accurate after the fact, but many of your clients, that's not what they want.